Athletes who take their sports further and faster than any before them have dared. From the peaks of Everest to G-force speeds of NASCAR, these men and women, some barely in their teens, excel to the extreme. What's their secret? Dr. Sanjay Gupta finds out in this week's series, Extreme Living. He begins with Scott Jurek, an ultramarathoner, one who tackles races of more than 150 miles a pop and one of the fastest runners in race history. In a moment, Sanjay goes one-on-one with Jurek. But first, we go up close with the racer, an athlete defying all odds.
Scott Jurek has been called the king of pain and the greatest ultramarathoner ever. Ultramarathons can be 125 miles longer than a typical 26-mile marathon. Scott finished his first in 1994, and since then, he's dominated the sport. Today, he holds records for these races that cover more than 150 miles and last over 24 hours straight. A notoriously tough ultramarathon is the 135-mile Badwater in Death Valley, California. In 2005, to get through the 130-degree heat, Scott was dunked in this king-size cooler full of ice water. Halfway through the race, he collapsed, and for 10 minutes he didn't move. But he managed to get up and not only finish the race, but shatter the course record. Scott says it was his mother, Lynn, who taught him how to persevere. She died last March after living with multiple sclerosis for 30 years. So what propels you to be able to do some of these things, running the distances you do? A lot of people wouldn't even dream of it.
I think for me it's that self-exploration, that idea of there's something out there, and the desire to see what my body, what my mind, and down to what my spirit can do. I mean,
do you think anybody could do this?
I think anybody can run an ultramarathon, and I know
really?
that's.
I mean, because I was reading all about you, and the first thing I thought was, I don't think I could ever do this.
It really is. I like to say that running an ultramarathon is 90% mental, and the other 10%, that's mental too. So, really somebody who has it, in their mind that they can accomplish this can really do it. Maybe everybody isn't made to be a runner.
Were you always a runner? I mean, how did it start?
For me, I actually used to hate running. I grew up hunting and fishing in northern Minnesota, and that really was where I got connected with the outdoors. And I got interested in running through Nordic ski racing and had to get ready for basically the snow season by doing some running on the ski trails.
You obviously do this competitively. What's the furthest distance you've ever run?
So the first distance I've run is 165.7 miles.
165
in 24 hours.
So tell me how that works. So are you taking breaks, or what are you doing?
So the more time I take breaks, the clock is always going. So the idea is to continue running throughout and as much as you can, because you only get 24 hours. And the only times I did stop were to go to the bathroom, basically. And even eating is done on the run.
Have you heard about the medical aspects of this? What have you been told?
Well, I think it helps. I'm actually a physical therapist, and so I know a little bit about the body, but is it healthy to go that far in that amount of time? It's hard to say, but the human body was built for endurance. If you look at our ancestors and what they did, I mean, even think of my great-grandparents and what they did for work out in the fields, and I think maybe our perception of what is normal has changed over the years, and I like to always refer to what people used to do.
You talk about exploration, and maybe to some extent exploring what the body can do, but at some point you made the decision to say, I'm going to go from someone who didn't like to run to racing in the hardest, presumably, running competitions in the world. Was there a moment when that happened for you and you said, I can actually do this?
I think it was probably after my first 50-miler, after my first ultramarathon. I'd run a marathon, and then a month later decided to do this 50-mile race. A buddy of mine, Dusty Olson, said, you've got to try this out. And at 20 years old, most 20-year-olds aren't thinking about running 50 miles. But after I had completed that, I said, of course, never again. Right. But it was after a few hours, and I was like, I think I can be pretty good at this.
Are you competing when you're out there? Are you competing against the other racers, against yourself? Running away from something?
I like to say I'm trying not to compete. I'm trying to work with my body, not compete against myself. Obviously, there's a clock out there, and I do use the other racers in the competition to push my body to that edge, because the competition really helps, explore those boundaries. What am I capable of?
When you watch this video over here, it's probably a little bizarre to watch yourself there, but is there something going through your head at this point? What are you thinking about or focusing on doing something like this?
Well, I'm definitely
Mile
not
107, I should point out.
I'm not focusing on the fact that I have another 130 miles to go, or another 30 miles to go after running 107 miles. But the main thing I always say is to try not to think, because the more I think about how hot I am, how much my legs hurt, and the goal is to really turn off that mental noise, so to speak, and focus on the simple tasks of, okay, I'm going to get to that next shady spot down the road or the trail. I'm going to try to get to the next aid station, take care of my body on a food and hydration level.
I know you've talked about your mom as well. Is that part of the reason as well that you continue?
Well, it definitely would drive me, thinking about her, and at a very young age. I mean, she was younger than I am right now when she was unable to walk. And, it's pretty touching and moving growing up as a child and not, seeing your mother be able to do the things that most moms can do in their 30s. And last year when she passed away in March, it was a really touching experience, and that really fueled me in setting a new American 24-hour record and running 165 miles in 24 hours. And, I thought about her and how she had struggled with a disease like that, and the fact that, hey, it's not too bad. I can keep going. I only have 24 hours of running to do.
It's incredible. Scott, thanks again so much.
Thank you for having me.